playoff predictions. There are so many incredible matches here. Can Bodo continue their rise in European football and defeat yet another Italian side? How hostile will Galatasaray be against one of their national team players, Kenan Yildiz? But for all of us neutrals, I think I know which match we are all excited for the most. Benfica versus Real Madrid. After Benfica shocked the world qualifying for the playoffs with Ruben's last-minute goal to send them there, stopping Real Madrid from advancing to the top 8 as well. It's a rematch we're all waiting for, not to mention Jose Mourinho will be returning to the Santiago Bernabeu. But yeah, I'll be giving you all my thoughts as to what will happen, giving you my scores for each of the legs for every single match. As always, let me know your predictions as well in the comments below. Don't forget to leave an early like, subscribe if you're new. I know many of you have been asking me where are the Europa League videos. I did have a bit of a pause on them. Sorry I couldn't react to my initial predictions I made. But I'll tell you what, if this video hits 2,000 likes, I will also upload my Europa League playoff predictions as well. Anyway, let's get into it, starting off with Galatasaray versus Juventus. Most people might be leaning towards Juventus, but last time these two sides faced in the Champions League, it didn't really go their way. In fact, Galatasaray have an overall better head-to-head record against the old lady, as Juventus only beat this side once in 2003. It is actually kind of shocking how many bad head-to-head records Juventus have against some sides that are not considered to have as much pedigree as them throughout history. But anyway, it has definitely been some time since Juventus have looked to be their dominant selves that they were years ago. Very underwhelming start to their season for their standards. They sacked Igor Tudor and now they've gotten Spalletti. Things started to look pretty good. They were getting some convincing victories, but for me, it's still not necessarily enough. I mean, look at their recent scores. I understand why fans were hopeful. They did get some one-sided victories, but they got knocked out of the Coppa Italia quarterfinal to Atalanta, losing 3-0. Recently just drew with Lazio. They couldn't defeat Monaco, who have been in dreadful form. So yeah, although Juventus under Spalletti are looking a bit more energetic, they are still way too unpredictable and can easily crumble here. Galatasaray faced some recent lows as well. They lost the Turkish Super Cup final to Fenerbahce, but Osimhen was absent for that match as he was playing at AFCON. Once he returned, things have been picking up the pace. They've been scoring loads of goals again, and yeah, Victor Osimhen is such a great addition to this team. Even when he doesn't get on the score sheet in a match, you still very much notice his presence. The attacking threat is way more physical and powerful, not to mention he already has a good amount of experience against Italian clubs as he played in Napoli prior. Although they're facing his side in the top 5 leagues, I don't really think Galatasaray are going into this match worried. So much attacking depth. Sane's been injured, but he should return before this clash. They just acquired Noah Lang as well from Napoli. Lamina in the midfield will miss the first leg, but still they've got a lot of experience in that department. Torreira, Gundogan, while Juventus will for sure be missing Vlahovic in the attack as he's injured. Jonathan David occasionally getting on the score sheet, but still many are complaining about his consistency for the team. Thankfully, their backline is fit at the time of this recording, but yeah, this is a huge toss-up. Not to mention, in the last Champions League campaign, Juventus were knocked out in this exact round to PSV. And I mentioned in my previous video, just like their national team, Turkish clubs are very tough to gauge. They are so unpredictable. Credit to Galatasaray though, in this Champions League campaign, they did pull off some impressive victories. I mean, they defeated Liverpool at the start of their sunken ship. So honestly, with this first leg being played in Istanbul, I do see Galatasaray picking up a 1-0 victory. The biggest question for me is, can Juventus come back in the second leg? It's too tough to gauge, but I'm going to give Spalletti the benefit of the doubt. They will get a 3-1 victory at their own home ground against Galatasaray in that second leg, meaning it will finish 3-2 on aggregate. Juventus advance. But genuinely, I would not be surprised if I'm wrong on this one. In fact, many of the quote-unquote underdogs in this round should not be ruled out. Anyway, let's move on now to Dortmund versus Atalanta. Last season, just like Juventus, Atalanta got knocked out at this stage as well, where we witnessed one of the most memorable meltdowns. Sorry, but I gotta show that clip as much as I can. Anyway, I'd say this one is 50-50. Atalanta are a sneaky side. I mean, we saw them win the Europa League when no one expected them to. Like I mentioned, they just defeated Juventus 3-0 in the Coppa Italia quarterfinal. At the time of this recording, they've been undefeated in Italy since 2026 began. However, they've only lost in the Champions League since 2026 began. And not necessarily to the toughest opposition. Both the clubs they lost to finished in elimination zone at the end. It was a huge fall-off. Atalanta were actually destined to finish in the top 8 had they not lost those matches. Dortmund are not much better though. They also lost their last 2 matches in the Champions League. Tougher opposition on paper, sure, but Tottenham have been in horrendous form. And against Inter, they couldn't even score at their own home ground. But hey, just like Atalanta since 2026 began, they are undefeated domestically. Guirassy not as electric as he was in the Champions League last season, but still getting some solid numbers in the Bundesliga. Based on their recent results, they definitely need to work on their defensive ability, but Dortmund do have that Champions League pedigree. When many people think that they're a sinking ship at the moment, they still pull through in this competition in particular. Atalanta just lost Lukman. He has gone to Atletico, but they still have a decent amount of reinforcement in the attack. The Montenegrin Kristovic is the top goal scorer and assister for the club. No doubt about it, Palladino has been a huge upgrade compared to Juric, but his recent slips are too big to ignore. I'm going to just favor Dortmund based on their Champions League success in recent years, but like I said, this is probably the most 50-50 match we are looking at here. First leg, Dortmund will win 3-1, and in the second, Atalanta will pull off a 2-1 victory. Obviously not enough though. Dortmund advanced with that aggregate scoreline. We move on out to PSG. Two clubs playing in the same domestic league. They will face each other in Ligue 1 shortly after this two-legged affair as well. But yeah, like I've hinted earlier, Monaco have been in very disappointing form. They randomly pull off that shock result. We just saw them defeat Rennes 4-0. The same club that just shocked PSG. This is a voiceover, by the way. I recorded this video before the matches over the weekend. And yeah, Monaco just won again. Prior to that victory against Rennes, their last win in Ligue 1 was against PSG though. However, it was all the way back in November. PSG obviously have kind of lost that spark from last season, but they were suffering some injuries. Now, many of those players have returned and are just slowly getting the hang of things. Some of the recent results have not been ideal. They failed to beat either of their opponents in their last two Champions League match days. But yeah, PSG's most recent result against Rennes has them now trailing to second place in their domestic league. That being said, they beat Marseille 5-0 earlier, giving De Zerbi the boots, so they do randomly have their moments for sure, just lack some consistency. Let's also not forget that last season, this was a turning point for PSG in their season. Prior, they weren't looking so good in the Champions League, and then in this round in particular, they annihilated Brest. Then they went on to be the most convincing team in the entire tournament. So maybe something similar will happen once again. Either way, I definitely see them defeating Monaco. I'm not sure about amount of injuries in the back line. Even on the wing, Minamino, a lot of Monaco's strengths will not be present, while PSG obviously are one of the best teams on paper in this tournament. So it's really just a matter of